So today we are talking about visuals, and I do want to make the distinction that hallucinating and having visuals are not the same thing. If I had to rank them, I would say that it would be like visuals, and then there's some level of like purgatory, and then there are hallucinations, and I'm gonna break that down over the course of this video. Visuals are the light things. I would consider them on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to having an experience. Visuals may be something like, oh, I was staring at something and the wall seemed like it was breathing, or I saw a pattern and the pattern was pulsating, but this pattern is on something that is stationary, like carpet or a painting, or like a design on a wall, or you know what I mean, or like wood or something like that. Visuals are very much so the stationary things that are moving when you are not and they are not. Hallucinations, on the other hand, is when you seeing stuff that's just not there. The first time I ever did shrooms, I wasn't having hallucinations, I was having visuals. Colors were seeming brighter, the walls were breathing, I'm seeing things pulsate. Okay, cool. But then when I did shrooms with my brother and I'm seeing confetti falling from the side of his face, the confetti's not there. That's a hallucination. I'm seeing things that I could say I imagined them in real time. Honestly, I'm also starting to consider whether the things that I saw when my eyes were closed when I was in Alaska, I don't really know where. That's probably like a purgatory situation because I wasn't looking at nothing in particular and my eyes were closed. But I'm also seeing something that's not physically in front of me, but like my mind is seeing this image, but I know that that is not there. Like I don't really know how to categorize that, so that kind of falls in like my purgatory section. So there's a great distinction, but this conversation came about because I went to a mushroom workshop. Essentially, this workshop is like an informational session where they kind of just talk about mushrooms. They're not talking about functional mushrooms, and to some extent, did I like the workshop? Yeah, it was cool. I will say that. But like people who like curious about psychs in general, it's like, was that class like a good starting point? Kind of. And I only say kind of because there were a lot of safety things that I felt should have been mentioned that just were not. And there were questions that were being asked from attendees, and one of them was about visuals, right? And so her question was like, you know, I wanna have visuals, but I feel like I'm not. Like, I feel like I eat enough, but I'm still not having visuals, and you know, I want to have visuals. This video stemmed from that question because I feel like if one person got a question, it's probably a bunch of other people who got that same question that just ain't getting no answer from it, so here we are. There were a few things that I told her about visuals in general. Number one, if you are in a state of consumption, you are highly more likely to have visuals that are in alignment with what you are consuming. And if you're not in a state of consumption, there are ways that you can induce, that's the vocabulary word I use, there are ways in which you can induce visuals as well. It just means that you need to be very meticulous and particular about stimulating the environment that you're in. If you know that you want to have visuals, it would behoove you to incorporate things that would be likely to pulsate or breathe, or you know what I'm saying, put more patterns in your room, even if it's just like posters or paintings, or you know, turning the TV on and going to YouTube and picking some type of abstract screensaver or something like that, you know, introducing more bright and or fluorescent and or neon colors to the room. And if you really want to take it up a notch, we can talk about LED and ultraviolet lighting. That also helps with visuals as well. But then that kind of also overlaps and goes back to my whole set and setting conversation, because if you are setting the tone for your environment, then you are also encouraging those visuals as well, even if it's something small like lighting. I do want to put this out here as well, because the presentation, we didn't watch it in its entirety because we were on a tight time crunch type of schedule. But then also too, the person who gave the presentation, it was like I wasn't going to critique it because it just very much so gave amateur, if that makes sense. Like, there are a lot of times when you are just involved with something for a lot longer than other people who are still talking about it, and you can just tell, like, no, their feet are more than wet with this. But there are also a lot of things that this person hasn't gotten to yet. They'll get there eventually, or hopefully, but there was just a lot of stones that was left unturned, and I'll put it like that. The second thing that I told her, beyond being in an active state of consumption and manipulating her environment, is that sometimes when you're looking for something, that's what you find. And if she is being more intentional about having visuals, then she also may need to consider, one, the type of mushroom that she's consuming, two, her consumption method, and three, how she chooses to amplify that. Because visuals happen when whatever's in your mind is already being amplified. So my question is, what exactly are you consuming? A lot of my visuals have been artistic. Why? Because I am usually in a never-ending cycle of consuming artistic things. One of my most vivid visuals, well, this was honestly a hallucination. I went to go visit a friend. I'm getting my hair cut because my friend's husband, you know how people have them like hidden talents? Well, one of his hidden talents is that he's a barber. And so I'm like, hey, can you line me up? He's like, yeah, I got you. Come on. I'm sitting down. There are also other people who are at the house. And so his brother is sitting on the couch, and I don't know what the look on my face was, but he was just like, hey, were you hallucinating? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, what do you see? And I was like, it's a mandala, but it's kind of like an Aztec type of mandala, and it's circular. And he was like, is it on me? And I was like, it's not on you, but it is rotating behind you on the curtains. And he was like, that sounds sweet. And I was like, yeah. And it was iridescent, right? But at the time, I was looking up mandala flowers, right? So I don't know how this Aztec version of it came up. That's what I saw because that's what I was consuming. I was looking up mandala flowers because I was thinking about getting a tattoo of a mandala flower. I was also very much so in my iridescent phase. I wanted everything iridescent. I love iridescent anything, like, but that's what I saw. I'm saying all of that to say that sometimes when people have horror-based visuals or hallucinations, it's probably because that's what they consume. I had to be very mindful of the fact that I watch a lot of crime shows. And although I don't allow those crime shows to consume me, I do see a lot of like gore and blood and rape and killing and torture. And, you know, if I watch too much Criminal Minds, I might see some sacrificial type of shit, right? Again, I have to be more conscious of what I am consuming, because this is part of the reason why I ask people, if everything that is going on in your mind was amplified right now, would you be okay with that? And most people, when they hear that question, they automatically divert to like what they got going on in their life, how much money they got, what type of emotional state they in, what type of financial state they in. You know what I mean? They never think about all the stuff that they consume, what they see on a regular basis. They immediately go to trauma, finances, and, you know what I'm saying, emotional shit that they got going on and how they feel on a scale of 1 to 10 at that moment. But it is far more intricate than that. So, yeah, granted, I also answered her question based on the kind of mushrooms that she was having, because again, tolerance matters. And if you're doing the same thing and you expected a different result, I don't know how much to tell you about that, because if you eating a low-grade mushroom, or something that I consider low-grade, if you eating something that's on the lower end of the spectrum, you would not be highly more likely to have good visuals off of some low-grade shit. You may need to upgrade. And it also goes back to doing your research, because even though potency charts are a good gauge, they are never definite, but they are, for the most part, a very good generalization of what you can expect. And if you buy mushrooms and you don't know that these mushrooms have a high tendency to amplify visuals, then that's on you, because you should have did a little bit more of your research. Of all the mushrooms that I have tried, I would not expect to have visuals off of a Malabar coast. For my body, I've had a lot of those. Didn't do a damn thing for me. Blue meanies, I felt high for sure. Did I have an experience? Yes. But did that experience include visuals? Not one. Not a one. And so I'm saying all of this to say that there is a level when people be like, no, you need to set your intentions. That ties into it. But your intentions got to be calculated. As I'm learning and growing with this, it's becoming very apparent that there's a formula to a lot of stuff. You're not having the experience that you want to have because you're not doing the research that you should be doing to figure certain stuff out. Like, people are going low and slow, which is cool, but in order to, I'm going to say, get the results, and if you just spend a little bit more time doing the research, and it's kind of hard to say to do the research, because it's like, okay, well, where the fuck do I even start to look to do the research? When you are dedicated enough to finding out something, you finna find out. You finna find out. And so if that drive ain't in you, then it's not there. Some people would rather go the trial and error route. Me, I don't want to trial and error no drugs. I'm a pass on that. I'm not trial and error. No. I would rather do the research first and figure out what the general consensus is and go from there. Takeaways from this video. Number one, if you would like to have visuals, enhance your environment so that it is conducive for visuals. Number two, be intentional about the mushroom you are consuming. It will be the key to your experience. Number three, look for visuals. Make sure your setting is one that is visual positive. I'm going to use that phrase. Visual inciting and visual conscious. And last but certainly not least, be aware of your consumption. If you are not in a state of consumption, figure out things that you would like to hallucinate and start consuming those things on a regular. Whether that be from your social media, whether that be from the things that you put in your space or fill your space with. It could be something as simple as a screensaver or a lock screen or something of that nature. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I will catch y'all on the flip side. Peace out, Mushie Buddy!